In 1972, a man named Bear sold his invention, the Brown Box, to a company called Magnavox. Magnavox would later sell the Brown Box as the Odyssey, the first ever in-home video game console. 50 years later, and huge advancements in technology, you best believe that video games are feeling the love. With such great advancements in realism and immersion, on top of nowadays, you can play with just about anyone, anywhere, anytime you want. But with all these advancements comes some downsides, as the booming accessibility and popularity of video games have led to more and more people playing them, and therefore more and more people ending up desensitized or cyberbullied or addicted to video games. These are all factors I feel have led to today's aggressive youth, and today I want to figure out why something that started as a cheap and effective way to bring an arcade home has become a breeding ground for aggression. And I think the main thing with that is desensitization. Video games, since the beginning of time, have been awesome fantasies for people to live through. And as those people who play video games got more mature, and those people that made them also got more mature, so did the games. With more and more games relying on incentivizing violence as a means of progression. On top of that, and more realistic environments, increased immersion, better audio. All these are factors that I feel lead to desensitized players. And if you don't believe me, just look at this study. As stated in the article, violent video games eventually lose their ability to produce guilt in gamers, published to Science Daily April 8, 2016, and received on November 19, 2020. Repeatedly playing the same violent game reduces emotional responses like guilt. The article later goes on to say, previous research by Gazard and others show that immoral actions can elicit higher levels of guilt than moral actions in video games. What that is saying is that even though we may be able to tell the difference between our bedroom and the streets of Grand Theft Auto or Los Santos, our brain really can't. Those actions that we perform in the video game and our emotional responses to them are not 100% one-to-one as if we committed them ourselves, but similar in the sense that we still feel the gravity of the action we've just committed. And prolonged exposure to these activities and constant incentivization to perform these activities will lead to a more desensitized and more aggressive public. But that's not the only form of desensitization we need to worry about either. And it's honestly not even the biggest problem facing video games. I feel like cyberbullying is another great example of how video games can have something that can cause extreme pain. Video games nowadays allow multiple different people from multiple different regions connect and play together seamlessly, and it's amazing. But unfortunately, unlike other social media platforms that allow a very similar form of connection, most video game chat rooms and parties don't have the same accessibility features to help de-incentivize and discourage cyberbullying. Instead, they're basically just open mics with no repercussions for what you say. And that can lead to pretty aggressive cyberbullying, as if you're hidden behind a screen, you're more likely to repeat the action and show less remorse. As stated as Erin Pebble states in her article, Cyberbullying Hiding Behind the Screen, published on December 2014 in National Institute of Health and received November 19, 2020, Because of this, bullies cannot see the reaction of their victims, and studies show that they feel less remorse due to this. So, on top of a extremely aggressive and endangering or emotionally harming world of chat rooms and the incentivized aggressive behavior of video games, on top of the more and more realistic environments, can lead to people isolating themselves in these video games, in these realities that they've made into their own. And that leads to another huge problem: addiction. And addiction in video games, I feel, is probably the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to this argument. As if if you know somebody that's suffering from either one of these, chances are they're probably suffering from addiction as well. As if you have to wonder if someone you love or are close to has been playing too much video games, they probably have. But why is addiction so bad towards gamers? Why isn't it good to be okay with just playing as many video games as you want? Well, in the article Video Game Addiction Symptoms and Treatment, edited by Meredith Watkins, posted to AmericanAddictionCenters.org, received on November 19, 2020, signs of irritability, anxiety, or anger when forced to stop playing video games even for a brief period of time are number one symptom of addiction. Today we looked at a few of these main problems starting to really rear their ugly head in gaming society. And while I think that video games are given a rating for a reason, and that as you get older and you really understand who you are as a person, you aren't as susceptible to, things like being told to be more aggressive through video games, I do still think it's very important that at a young age, parents do a good job at monitoring what their children are focusing on. Because if not, we're going to end up with a lot more addicted, depressed, cyberbullied, aggressive children. Thank you guys, and have a great day.